Hello everyone, it's Ryan Hassan from the Centre for Healing here. Today in this short video I'm going to talk about mindfulness and how we can start to take this word that gets thrown around a lot today and make it a very, very easy and simple to understand concept. Because the truth is, if I start researching mindfulness, we hear it all the time, right? Got to be mindful, got to be mindful, got to practice mindfulness. We can download apps, we can go on Google and do some research, we can look at scientific studies, we can go down a rabbit hole on YouTube, we can read books. Like, my God, you could get 100 books on the topic of mindfulness. So it's a very, very overly used term in this day and age. And it does have real value to it, but we are quite saturated with information around it. But it is a very, very simple concept and very, very simple to understand. All mindfulness is am I aware of my experience of what it's like to be me in this human body, in this human experience? The opposite of that is when I'm not being mindful, I'm walking around in a very unconscious state. I'm unconscious, and that means I'm acting out patterns and behaviors from my past programming and not being aware. So let's create a very, very quick diagram here. I've had clients draw this out numerous times. It's been very, very helpful to me on my journey as well to really simplify the context around mindfulness, but also a little diagram that we can have next to our bed, which I've got clients to look at in the morning and night just to remind ourselves. We have to keep on top of this and remind ourselves to be mindful, and the morning and the night is a very, very easy time to do that. So I encourage you, if you have a pen and paper handy, to draw this diagram out with me as I go through it. So you'll see the top circle there. It says me. You can put, your name, your initials. You can write I in there, but that's the you who witnesses this human experience. And if you see those three circles below, from the time we are born to the moment we die, we will only be aware of three things in this life. Okay, the categories are quite broad, but it's only three things at the end of the day, and we're going to go through each of those one at a time. Okay, like I said, we're making this very, very simple. So the first one's the outside world. We are aware that there is things happening out here. We're aware that we have information coming in through our senses all the time. Okay, we're very, very aware when things are happening at work, with our boss, in a relationship, with our friends, in terms of our financial life, our family, all of that. Okay, this is where most people get stuck, and that's all that they're aware of in this existence. But we're very, very aware that things are happening out here, and I'll talk more about the outside world in a minute. Second thing that we are aware of. Who of you watching are aware that we have a little voice up here that doesn't seem to shut the hell up? It seems to narrate our life as we go through it. It judges, it criticizes, it's always talking. It also doesn't just talk to us, but it shows us pictures, it shows us memories from the past, it shows us people from the past, it shows us projections of the future and what's going to go wrong or go right. But basically, we are aware that we have thoughts going on up here in the mind. Okay, and if you're watching this and you think, I don't have a voice, I don't know what he's talking about, that's the voice that I'm talking about. Okay, we have these thoughts. Okay, sometimes it's nice up here. A lot of the times it isn't so nice up here. The ancient Toltecs call it the metote. It's like 1,000 people talking. Metote means marketplace. So it's 1,000 people talking, yet no one's listening. And that's what it can feel like up here sometimes. So we're aware that we have these things called thoughts. The third thing that we're aware of in this human experience is our emotions. We are aware that we feel, and we're aware that those feelings change. Sometimes we'll feel love and joy and peace and bliss, and then other times we might feel guilt, shame, anger, fear, sadness, hurt, or a combination of those. And we're on this kind of roller coaster, but we're very, very aware that we have feelings, and those feelings change. Sometimes they can feel similar day to day, oftentimes they change. We're aware that we have emotions. So like I said, these are three broad categories, but this is all that we're going to be aware of in this human experience. So why is this important? What happens when we're not aware of our thoughts and emotions? We get stuck playing in the outside world. And when we get stuck playing in the outside world, we start to be like that hamster on the spinning wheel, going round and round and round. Because what happens, we go through life and all of a sudden we become not happy with our outside world. We become not happy with our reality based on our perception. So what happens, those thoughts and emotions down there start to get disturbed. Okay, our emotions start to not feel so good. Our thoughts, then being congruent with our emotions, start to not say nice things. So we start to feel lack. We might, let's say it's money. Money is such a stress for so many people. And we might all of a sudden perceive, we see someone else with a lot of money we went to school with or something, and we perceive that we don't have enough, so we need to get more. So all of a sudden, my thoughts and emotions are disturbed. Now, instead of being aware of those thoughts and emotions and starting to work with and address those, we jump to the outside world. We start to try and change circumstances and situations, all in an attempt, and we're not mindful of this, but all in an attempt to help those thoughts and emotions calm down a little bit. So what happens, let's say it is money, and I go out there and I'm like, I need more money, and I go and do whatever I have to do to get more money. Let's say, we hear it all the time. If I could just make, 10, 20, 30,000 more dollars a year, then I'd be happy. Then what happens when we do get that 10, 20 or $30,000 more per year? What happens? The thoughts and emotions will calm down because we achieved that goal for a little amount of time, but it does not take long. It does not take long at all for those thoughts and emotions to start stirring up again. And then we need to go back to the outside world to try and get more money. And this is why it's the hamster wheel, because it's never enough. It's like getting that new car. It's like we just want this dream car, and then we get it, and we have this state of desirelessness, and the thoughts and emotions feel okay. And then, as soon as that new car smell goes away, or we get the first scratch, or we hear the first clunking noise in the car, or we see someone else with a nicer car drive past, all of a sudden those stir up again, and we need the next car. We need more money. We need a different relationship. We need a new partner. We need a new job. We're always trying to strive for more, and more, and we never actually feel satisfied. We never actually can sit in peace because we're always trying to be somewhere else than where we are. And that's because we're not mindful, we're not aware of our thoughts and emotions and where they come from, so we can't change what we're not aware of. And this is what mindfulness is all about. It's taking the first step to change. The first step to change is awareness, which is being mindful of that experience. So this is kind of the first step, and can be multiple steps. Sometimes awareness can be very healing within itself, but there generally are steps that precede that on a healing journey of breaking some patterns and finding more peace and connection, as opposed to these heavier emotions of lack and anger and sadness and all that kind of thing. So we get stuck on this hamster wheel of disturbed thoughts and emotions, changing the outside world, disturbed thoughts and emotions, changing the outside world. So it's a life of, the majority of it is disturbance, really, because there's very, very brief periods of relief when we get that thing in the outside world, but then they start again because it all becomes from the energy of lack. So all we do is we write this diagram out. It's something that we remind ourselves of every morning and every night, and that's the best time to remind ourselves that, hey, in the morning I'm going to look at this diagram and say, hey, in this experience today I'm going to be aware of the outside world and my thoughts and my emotions. And at the end of the day, we look at this diagram again and we just say, how did I do today in staying aware and staying mindful of my thoughts, emotions, and the outside world? Because what happens when we start to do this, we take ownership of our life. Yeah, we're not at the whim of that outside world, that first circle there. Because what happens, oftentimes, a co-worker or a boss says something to me and they become the source of my suffering because I blame it on them. I blame it on the outside world and say they made me feel this way, and I carry that baggage around with me. Whereas when we start to adopt this more mindful lifestyle, we can look at the stimulus from the outside world, which was someone saying something to us, and then we can start to become very, very aware of our thoughts and emotions based on that stimulus. And what happens, the reason this creates so much more awareness is because we start to see how carried away and overreactive we are to certain situations. We can start to see that, hey, I'm still thinking about what my coworker said to me a week later and it's still disturbing my thoughts and emotions. Why is that? And then all of a sudden we start to become super aware and we start to understand, that's because, this is how my mum used to treat me when I was a kid. And now this stimulus in the outside world, being a coworker or a boss or whatever, is bringing that up. Like I said, this is awareness that we can't gain unless we start to become aware of these three circles here and not just the one on the left, which is the outside world. So you can see how just reminding yourself morning and night to be mindful, we can start to look at the start and the end of the day, and all of a sudden it starts to bleed more into every moment of our day, and we start to take more ownership of our thoughts and emotions, which in turn helps our perception of the outside world start to change. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has broken down mindfulness and made it a bit more simple, a bit of an easier concept to understand, I encourage you to write out this diagram and look at it morning and night, and feel free to message us in the group and let us know how you're going with that process, and we're happy to answer any questions and help in any way. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you all in another video. Peace out.